Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Steel City Underground podcast. This is WTF, What the Football. My name is Terry Fletcher. We have just completed week 8 as we come off another win, 4th in a row for the Steelers, and it was ugly to start, but we pulled it out at the end. Of course, we were playing the Browns, so I know I'm going to get a lot of grief about that. But first, we'd like to say this episode is brought to you by Keck Medicine of USC. 500 internationally renowned doctors at a leading academic medical center, keeping you healthy, on track, and doing the things you love. The Keck Effect, keckmedicine.org. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to bring up, because today is the deadline for the trade agreements by 4 o'clock. And so there was a couple of interesting trades. One was Demaryius Thomas of the Broncos, and he's actually a wide receiver of mine that I have on fantasy football. But what was interesting about it is that the Broncos are set to play in week 9, which is this coming weekend, the Texans, the Houston Texans. And so he was traded to the Texans, and he now is a Texan, and he plays his former team. So, you know, being a Bronco for 9 years and then going to Texas, and now he's playing that team, that's a total WTF for me. I'm thinking, okay, what the football there, but interesting. So there's a lot of different trades out there. One interesting one, again, if you are a fantasy football person and you have Golden Tate. He is a former Detroit Lion. Now he is a Philadelphia Eagle. So just a couple of things, to take a look at that you think, okay, some teams are making some moves, and definitely some interesting things going on there. So just interesting. We look at some defensive players. Dante Fowler is now a member of the Rams, and the Rams are, let's face it, they're 8-0. So nobody feels like they can touch them. But if you look at their defense, they are winning games by slim margins. They're pulling it out, but they're slim margins. So their defense has given up some points. And so that was probably a good move from them. And, I'm a Steelers fan, of course, but Rams, because it's in my backyard, I'm telling you, I like what they're doing here, but they definitely need to figure out something on defense, or they're going to be short-lived on that perfect record for sure. So as we're talking about trade talks, I wanted to put something out there since Mike Tomlin walked out of his press conference today when Le'Veon Bell was mentioned. I don't blame him. He's so sick of it, just like I'm sick of it. But it is a conversation. We're heading into week 9. First, we thought he was going to be there, Labor Day. Then we thought he was going to be there, hopefully, the beginning of the season. Then it was by the bye. And now we're hearing rumors that he doesn't want to be put on the exempt list. And let me just explain what that means. Because he's held out so far into the season, the Steelers have the right to put him on a player exempt list, meaning that they don't have to give him a salary until he's ready. So they can basically have him on the roster, but they have to give him time to get ready. Remember last year, it took him a couple of weeks to get ready, and he gets rusty, and he's rusty when he comes back. So he can't just expect to go in, get paid full salary, whatever's left, and he's lost just under $7 million, and now he thinks out of his 14.5 that he's going to come in and they're just going to hand him over his $9 million. I don't think so, and especially not the way Connor's balling out. So there are rumors there he did not show up before the trade deadline and sign it. But the reason I wanted to bring that up is we have a lot of people saying, trade him, trade him, trade him. People, you have to understand, unless he signs his tender, his franchise tag, he cannot be traded. We can't trade him. But the other thing, keep in mind, and I don't know how many of you remember what happened when we cut LeGarrette Blount a few years back, when he just basically stopped playing, walked off the field because he didn't want to be, as much of a backup to Bell at that point. And I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Well, immediately the Patriots picked him up, and then they went on to win the Super Bowl. Think about this. As much as you don't want Bell as part of the system or part of the team at this point, if that's where you're at, I still think he can help us. It's still pisses me off to no end what he's doing. And I think he's actually hurt his brand personally. But let's just say you're in the thought process that you're kind of done. I mean, you're seeing what, Connor's doing out there. He's more like a Jerome Bettis type running back, though. He's not a Le'Veon Bell, but he also has been a very big factor in the passing game. But the thing is that Bell has to come in and sign first. And if he doesn't do that, then we can't trade him. And so I think a lot of people just don't understand that concept that you actually have to be on the roster to be able to be traded as a rostered player. And he missed the deadline for today. So we'll see what happens. I have a feeling at this point the Steelers are going to be like, you know what? Go ahead and hold out. You either do it how we want you to do it because we're having some success here, but you really don't have any leverage at this point. So he may think he does, and next year I'm sure some team, subpar team, will pay him what he wants. But right now, the Steelers are not doing that, and they're not basically bowing down to what he wants. So that's where we're at, and I have to say that's one of the biggest WTFs for me is, what the heck is he doing? What the F is he doing? So what the football, right? So let's get back to some of the happenings on the field as far as the WTFs. So going back to the Texans, where we just said one of the trade offers was made, they beat Miami 42-23, but Deshaun Watson, man, remember last year before he got hurt, he was on track to be an MVP. He threw 5 touchdowns and only 4 incomplete passes the entire game. I was like, dude, wow. So that was just crazy. I mean, it was really crazy. If you got up like I did at 6:30 in the morning on Sunday here in California, watching the London game, so that was kind of funny. It was between Philadelphia and the Jaguars. Carson Wentz had a pass batted down, and it batted down back to him for a first down. So kind of funny. I mean, I know Ben had it in our game, but it wasn't for a first down. It was for an incomplete pass. They first called it a fumble, but in that game, in that London game, I don't know what was in the air, but 4 tipped balls in the first 5 minutes. I was like, okay, am I still sleeping here or what's going on there? But that was just an interesting game to start, because the Jags, so 4 of the Jags defensive back players were arrested on Friday night before the game for, now what was originally reported as a $42,000 bill. Okay, so they were out until 4 a.m. At some, restaurant establishment bar, obviously drinking, and they got into a little bit of a brawl and did not pay what was reported to be $42,000. Turned out it was actually a $52,000 bar tab and food tab. And it just amazes me, because when you sit there and you think about, if this was not a celebrity football player, if it wasn't wasn't a team that had to be on the field in, 12 hours after that happened, what are you thinking? I just can't believe that the coach was okay with no curfew, and the fact that you have to give grown men curfews anyway. And it just basically, the Jags came out and said, oh, we know what they did, and they will make full restitution. And they just get special treatment, and I don't like it. I think that they should have just kept them arrested and whatever they did until they made payment, and they should have been sat. Look what happened this week. I mean, to me, that was a huge WTF. But look what happened this week with Josh Gordon. He's over there at Patriots now from the Browns, and he was late to a meeting and late to get on the bus. He was not in a brawl. He did not walk out on a restaurant tab. He, embarrass himself in another country on behalf of the NFL. And he was late to a meeting, which, again, you're with the Patriots. You know what we talk about the standard is a standard in Pittsburgh. Bill Belichick doesn't stand for tardiness. And he was benched the first quarter of their game this weekend. So it just is amazing to me how different teams handle different things. And it really bothers me, the message that those Jaguar players were sent, saying, okay, well, you get to play first and then we'll deal with it later. It just really bugged me. So I'm just going to put that out there, is that if you're going to act like a kid, you're going to get treated like a kid. And boy, did they need a timeout. I'm telling you. And then we get into that game itself. So Rich Eisen and the NFL Network crew, which was Michael Irving and it was Kurt Warner, they were all calling the game. Now, Good Morning Football, or I should say, I'm sorry, when they're on Sunday, it's not the Monday through Friday thing, but when they're on the NFL Game Day, they're just a little bit over the top. I don't like seeing shows that just, they focus on the silliness and just that, I want to hear about football stuff. I want to be not completely serious, but enough where I just don't feel like I'm wasting my morning, and actually I have to say I was in a WTF moment because I was like, they actually did a decent job. They took it down a notch and did a decent job, except I do have to laugh at Rich Eisen. He's not the Tony Romo of football, if you get what I mean, as far as knowing what plays are next and really understanding the game. He was like, oh, look what he did. Yep, the pass was caught. He was very lay terms in his calling the game. So it was just good. It wasn't great. It was good. It was fine. It was, but 4 of them, calling the game definitely was, okay, guys, that's interesting. So then we're going to get to just what happened in the Steelers game. And then we'll kind of comment on some other games. But I just want to talk to you about this because, and I know we do a quick Yensing, podcast about just everybody wants to rant right after the game, good or bad, believe it or not. But we ended up winning 33-18. And we didn't have any first downs till the second quarter. So right there, I'm like, can I just have a first down? That's all I want for Christmas. I just want a first down. But I mean, the first quarter was punt, interception, punt. And I'm like, what the football? What is going on here? It was just so ridiculous not to see a first down. And then, of course, Ben gets in his groove and things look good. But I have to admit, and you had to see this on special teams. So we got a safety, which was awesome because that gives us 2 points and the ball back. But what a stupid WTF play, not only by Rosie Nix, but also by Switzer. But you know what? I'm going to put this on Danny Smith, our special teams coach. So we get a safety and then we get a free kick and no one goes after the ball. So for some reason, Rosie Nix calls for a fair catch, and I'm not even sure why because he's not catching it. Maybe he's there to protect Ryan. I don't know. And then Ryan saw him do something, but then let it go, and they all let it go. Even Antonio Brown was out there overrunning it. I just don't know what was going on with this play, but this is a live ball. This is not just like a punt. This is not like a kickoff. This is a live ball. And now the other team can get on that ball and it's their ball. And it ended up in a touchdown. So it was Brown's ball, but I put this on Danny Smith. For me, once you get a safety, the game is so fast. You talk to your team and tell them what's next. Say, okay, this is a live ball. We get a free kick. Make sure you get on top of that ball. That's all it would have taken. So yes, the players should have known the rules. I mean, we know the rules, but I think a lot of you may have been at home going, why are they on that ball? What happened there? And some of the media people that were calling the game, they were like, oh, even Dan Fouts, he's like, oh, yes, this is actually now Brown's ball. They didn't say it was a live ball until after they realized what was going on. And so some of the seasoned players didn't even know. So it was to me, it's on the special teams coach to absolutely let your players know what's going on. I mean, if you're not there to remind and you're not there to guide, then what are you there for? It's something that you have to be there for. That's why you see Ben looking at his wrist where all his plays are. You don't memorize these things by heart. And that was one of those weird, funky things that not everybody knows. So that was just so stupid. It could have been such a game changer in the wrong direction for the Steelers. But there's nothing else to say about that. And then even coach after his post presser, somebody said, what about that play? He goes, we blew it. Boy, did you ever blow it. And then one of the things with Connor, boy, that kid, he's seriously amazing. I mean, he is just balling. He's having a better season than Bell did last year. He's no drama, very low key. And so to me, again, and you probably think I've been WTFing Bell for the last 3 to 4 weeks when I've been going solo on these. Well, I have. So if you go solo, you get to do what you want. And I'm sorry, but I'm kind of over it. I mean, it's hard for me because I think I mentioned this in one of my podcasts before. One of the only Steeler games I've ever been to was in San Diego. And it was when Mike Vick was the quarterback. And we had 4 seconds left. Ben was on the sideline, basically the de facto OC. And you could lip read him. I mean, you could see it clearly, no dancing. And he looked right at Bell, get that ball in the end zone. We decided to go for it instead of kick for the tie. And it was a tough game, but I mean, he got it in there. And being in San Diego, it was all terrible towels. And so just seeing what Bell did there, seeing what the entire team finally made happen on that, one of the best games I've ever seen. And I mean, I only see them really on TV, or I've seen one that was in a box, I should say, with a client of mine in Pittsburgh, but nothing ever really on the field until I went to a San Diego Pittsburgh game. And so I miss Bell. I do. I absolutely miss him. But am I ranting about how he's handling his business? I just don't understand it. I think he's getting some really bad advice from his agent, and time will tell. We'll see what turns out to happen with him. We'll see. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up on our game was that Calvin Ridley is our third running back, and he saw some running back action, and he did fumble, and it was a turnover. But here's a couple of things I don't like about what happened there. First of all, everybody was on Twitter just saying, get him out of there. He's prone to fumbling. You know, it was stupid to put him in. Get Connor back in there. Okay, so you have to know, Connor needs a breather once in a while. That kid is getting a lot of airtime and a lot of field time, and he needs a breather. But for Calvin Ridley, who is being such a good teammate, being a backup, you guys have to realize, yes, he fumbled, and remember, Connor fumbled twice in that game. But it's his first fumble since 2013. So no, he does not fumble all the time, you know? So, and remember in 2017, Bell had 3 fumbles. Even Connor had one, in week 2 that cost us a game. So we have to really put things in perspective, try not to just, pull the trigger on some of the Twitter hate there, and really go and check and see, well, is he prone to fumbling? He isn't. And I appreciate him as a teammate to help give, Connor a little bit of a breather, just a break so he can catch his breath. But WTF fans, just make sure you're aware of that. But here's the thing that really was a WTF, and here's where I'm going to get all over the referees. I just don't understand how you can be selective in your rule enforcement. And so the turnover happened, and it wasn't formally reviewed. It should have been, because the rules say all turnovers and change of possessions are by rule supposed to be reviewed. Even the TV analyst said, "What, wasn't that supposed to be reviewed?" And actually, when they called in their TV, I think it was Gene Salvatore, he basically said, well, yes, I think it probably was upstairs, but because it was so obvious, no, because it was so obvious. You need to tell the TV people, and you need to tell us out there that it was reviewed and what the outcome was. Yes, we know it was a turnover, but you can't be selective. That's like saying we're not going to call pass interference because it was so obvious that he mugged the guy. No, you have to basically do that. And so it really bothers me that the refs are getting away with that. But we did see a ref finally fired. So for apparently just really bad enforcement, or lack of enforcement, or play calling. Who knows what they were doing, but we did see a ref get fired, which you just never see that. So that made the news. And that was a big WTF coming into the week. Monday morning, Browns head coach Hugh Jackson and our sweet little former offensive coordinator Todd Haley both were fired. Okay, from the Cleveland Browns. And what's interesting about this, it's not a WTF for me, except the WTF part for this was, I don't know if you know this, but when the Browns coaches get fired, usually it's every 2 years they fire a coach. It's usually after the second loss to the Steelers. And so it's kind of sad, but it's very true. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. But Hugh Jackson went 3-36-1, and yeah, Todd Haley's only been there for 8 games, but they just weren't making it happen. I can't believe Todd Haley or Hugh Jackson actually had his job as long as he did. And so the biggest WTF, I think, is going to be the fact that they've got what's his name? Okay, I'm gonna have to think about it for a second. His first name is Doug, but anyway, he's one of the coaches that is one of the secondary coaches that's coming up. But he was the coach that got Sean Payton in New Orleans suspended for a year for that headhunting issue. He was the coach that was in Tampa Bay that basically when he lost a game and the other team was going victory formation, he actually had his players bull rush. And his excuse was, we don't do victory formation. We're not done till the team's up to the, game's over. And I'm thinking, what a jerk. I was thinking something else, but we're definitely on no profanity today. But I just can't believe that you have to deal with that. That just is really, I don't know what's going to happen there, but I just think the Browns need to call it a day. Or they're looking for a London team, go there. Or find just a different city, anything, just to move on. I just don't know what that team's going to do, but it's pretty sad to me when I hear what's going on there. And then lastly, we just want to make sure that we just sent out our condolences and prayers to the community and families in the Pittsburgh area Tree of Life Synagogue shootings. We are heartsick that these things are happening out there, and our thoughts are with you this week. So hope everyone, thank you for listening, joining us. We hope you make it a productive week and do something to pay it forward this week. You never know, the person right in front of you could use that cup of coffee paid for, or could use you just opening the door for them, anything. So do something to pay it forward, and everybody make it a great week, and go Steelers.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.